Hello and welcome back to another edition of Airdrie Inside. My name is Chris Glass. I am with Stu Ward here at Balzac Brewery. And this is our first edition with our new format. So as you know, we added Britton Lendingham as a producer, and we are filming with 3 cameras here at Balzac Brewery. Stu, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm enjoying being here.
Stu, I really wanted to have you on as a guest because I have come to this brewery. I've enjoyed the craft beer, and it's part of my Airdrie culture to be here. So I wanted to learn more about it and learn more a little bit about yourself. So thanks for hosting us and thanks for having us here.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad you like the beer and appreciate the business.
Excellent. So Stu, I know you moved to Balzac in 1988, correct?
Correct.
So what brought you to Balzac?
The lifestyle more than anything else. The fact that both my wife and I, being from a farming background, decided that to get out of the city was a deciding factor whenever the chance arose. We were already boarding our horses outside and didn't want to be subjected to that type of thing. So we decided the first chance we got to move into the country, we will. And we did.
And that was from Calgary that you moved?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So you've always been in this area?
Pretty much for the last 40 years, at least.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so after moving to Balzac and having a career in farming and ranching, was that what you were doing? Or?
No. The farming background was more or less just in the childhood and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Mostly oil and gas.
Oil and gas, which is very rare in Alberta.
Yeah, there's not many people that work in that industry. No.
Right.
Both my wife and I, we spent time working for various companies, and over the years, and I spent a good portion of my life working in the oil business. Right.
And so after that, what brought you into the craft brewery scene?
More than anything, it started on from working in England.
Oh, okay.
The first time we visited there, visiting a good friend in Scotland, and that pretty well cured me of North American beers.
Right.
But the problem was trying to find them in the 70s in this part of the world was pretty difficult. There were some not bad European beers, but not too much on the English side. But anyways, that gave me a really good flavor. And then when I worked in, we'd been back several times, and when I worked in England in 99, it solidified the fact that I wanted to be, if I ever had the chance to have an English style pub, I would do that. The old pubs over there are full of character, both the building and the people. And that's basically where it started more than anything else. The craft beer movement was sort of, this is 1999. It was sort of in its heyday at that particular point, and all the smaller breweries were being bought up by the big guys. And then,
right.
But it gave us a good flavor, gave me a chance to test a lot of the good beers that they have over there.
So my wife is from London, England, so I've had the luxury of going back, and I love the standing outside of a bar and having a pint. I don't know why that's a thing in England, where you just, instead of being inside, you just stand outside on the road. It's great.
No kidding. Yeah. Unfortunately, our regulatory bodies don't think that's a good idea in this part of the world, and which I find rather curious. But regardless, we can sit out in the patio or stand out in the patio and drink.
Right.
But they just don't like you wandering around aimlessly with a beer in your hands. But regardless, that's the beauty of having an establishment like that over in that part of the world.
So, inspired by that European feel, inspired by European beer, what made you think Airdrie and Balzac? It's home, but why here?
Well, mostly because of the fact that there really wasn't anything. But let me be clear in that we started out. We didn't know what we wanted to be, whether we were going to be a large brewery or anything like that.
Right.
We started out with the concept. My son and I thinking about it would be kind of nice to do this sort of thing, so we started researching in the 2015, 2016, and doing a lot of traveling about throughout the Western United States and Western Canada, and checking on different styles of breweries and what is it we wanted to do. We came to that decision, I think it was in 2015 or 16. We were enjoying American Thanksgiving in Southern California, and my son and I were sitting around the in the living room, and as the level in the Scotch bottle dropped, the intelligence level rose.
Right. Everybody becomes a professor.
Exactly. So we thought it would be a smart idea and that type of thing. And when I was doing on a contract in Colorado, and when that ended in 2017, came back to Calgary, and there wasn't much going on with the oil patch. So we just decided that maybe it's time to call it a career.
Right.
And we'd done so much research that we were either if we're going to do this, let's do this. So we decided that's exactly what we'd do. So I knew I didn't want to be a big brewery or a destination brewery situated in Balzac, just
Right.
Balzac proper, just because the drinking and driving is not a good thing these days. And to be a destination brewery, that's what leads to that sort of thing.
So I actually remember sitting here at the pub when you first opened, talking to you. I don't know if you remember it. It was a long time ago, and I'm sure you met a lot of people, but you told me that story, and it really resonated with me that you didn't want people driving all the way out to Balzac, having a couple of pints and taking the highway back.
Right.
I just thought it was a really heartfelt thing to motivate where you opened.
Yeah, gone are the days when I was done bailing or and going down the gravel road, and I got don't hold it against me, but I got a beer in my hands and a 12-pack behind the seat, and
It was a different time.
That's exactly right. So I think it still goes on, but not knowingly. But regardless, so it was just to satisfy the requirement, and we decided that when we decided to zero in on the pub atmosphere.
Right.
That's what really made it looking for the right spot, and deciding on this place was not a hard decision or anything like that, because it was focal point.
Yeah.
And we knew that we wanted to be true to the English style in that while I couldn't create the character of the buildings that they have over there, because they're hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
We've been very successful in attracting the type of characters that come into the place that
Right.
that make it a lot of fun, and allowing to have. We wanted the kids to come in, we wanted the dogs to come in, and that sort of thing, and to make it a full family. And we wanted to be able them if they're out walking the dog, or walking the kids, they don't have to tie either one up outside, so they can come in and have a beer.
Well, and one of the things that I've always loved about Balzac was the dogs. There's always dogs on the patio to pet. It's part of the staff in some ways.
Pretty much, like our Westie that we have, he's the brewery mascot, basically, or the Walmart greeter. When you come in the door, he lets us know that there's somebody new coming in, and he'll go up and greet you and sniff you, and if you're okay, he'll let you go by.
He is probably the most effective bouncer in Airdrie.
Pretty much.
Comes up, gives you a sniff, gives you the thumbs up, and lets you in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No.
So now you've decided on this location. You've decided Airdrie's going to be home. What next? Like, what goes into starting a brewery? Because it's not like starting a bar where you just order a bunch of liquor from Liquor Connect and staff your bar. How do you go about selecting the beer? How do you go about filling out the taps that you see behind us?
So before we came to this particular point, we were already brewing in the barn.
Yeah. So you
in
already had some
Balzac.
experience.
Yeah, we were already doing that, and we'd pretty well settled on the English styles of ales as opposed to the West Coast IPAs or the stronger IPAs that seem to be more prevalent throughout North America, which basically was the craze, if you will. But I took a flyer and said, okay, let's see what we can do with English
Go in the
ales,
opposite
because
direction.
there seems to be a lack of them, and a lot of places that I had frequented, they weren't making them.
Right.
So I said, well, let's just try something completely different,
Yeah.
So let's take a flyer. So what we ended up doing was making them in the barn, and the brewer that we hired, our very first brewer, came out of Olds College, and she was just an outstanding brewer and very good at making recipes or fixing them. And we had these ones, and so we started out with her brewing in the barn on a small batch basis, tweaking the recipes so they got to the point where we figured, this is going to be really good. And of course, we were always told that if it tastes really good on a small batch, wait till you get to the big batch. It's going to be even better. And truer words were never spoken. And she did an outstanding job in coming up with these recipes and making them even better.
So this isn't something you did overnight. This is how long did that process take of perfecting recipes in the barn before we opened the facility?
Well, it was a good 2 years. We incorporated in 2017 just because it was time to pull the trigger and start getting things done. So we ended up with all the research and deciding that this was going to be the spot. It took a while to licensing, business plans.
To ramp up.
And finding equipment that was appropriate more than anything else, knowing that the style that we wanted, knowing we were going to be here, knowing the style that, and how much room we had or didn't have. We had roughly 350 square feet of space to make beer from, and it was really, really limited. So we had to be very fussy on where we got our equipment, and we came across the equipment that we presently have, which is a 7 hectoliter system made in Victoria called Brewha, and it's a really, really good system for the size of brewery that we are. And it allowed us to keep up with the demand more than anything else. And the interesting thing about it was that, so to answer your question about the beers and all that, the styles and everything else, our patrons are our guinea pigs. If they don't like it, we don't make it. So, and I give our brewers a little bit of leeway to experiment a little bit, but the thing is that they're always interested in trying something new, but then they want to come back to their standard beer that they really like. They'll have one pint of the new one, but then they'll go back and have their old one that they're more comfortable with. But I find that with the styles that we have, we've satisfied a niche that was missing here in Airdrie. And it wasn't really more or less by design. I think a lot of this happened by accident. I can't take credit that this is a really intelligent decision. My wife, sometimes she looks at it and says, are you sure we know what we're doing? And I get that question a lot, especially at our age, that type of thing. It's not one of those things that you're supposed to be retiring, but I'm one of those never retire, just do something different.
Right. Well, and your timing, you had just started to get going. If I remember, you had opened, this place was flying, and then COVID hit, and that created a whole bunch of different challenges for breweries and restaurants and business as a whole. I know you in the past have credited the community with rallying behind you a little bit there. So walk me through how COVID was. With that time to own a brewery during that time?
Well, it was really disappointing because you're absolutely right. We were starting to, our business was starting to take off, and as being the third entity within the city of Airdrie, especially on this side, the other two being on the highway, and this side being or the other breweries being on the other side of the highway, it really filled a bit of a void over in this part of the world.
It did.
When the health restrictions came in, it was really difficult, but it was one of those things, we just refused to let it get us down. We could still operate. And it mostly became the situation, we didn't really care what kind of container you brought in here. If you brought in your Yeti mug, I'd fill it. I wasn't fussy about that aspect of it. So it made it kind of by necessity that we wanted this. We weren't going to just walk away from it. It was just one of those things that we said that it's not going to get us down. And it afforded us, with the demand because the product was well received, people didn't want to see it go away or anything like that. So we had to make sure that we were able to provide them. So we would deliver to their door, or they would come and pick it up from North Calgary or throughout Airdrie or in the rural communities. So for a year and a half, 2 years, I would say, as the restrictions gradually eased and somewhat, then we were able to do more and more and more. And So it was basically flat sales more than anything else. It
Yeah.
wasn't really growth
Which is
or anything
good
like
for that time.
that. Precisely.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
was-
To maintain and stay
yeah,
alive.
we
and-
maintained status quo. We didn't grow the business or anything like that. We just didn't have any place to go or anything like that. There was a few places that helped out, such as golf courses and that type of thing. But
Yeah.
more than anything else, it was just satisfying the demand from the locals, and the support was magnificent. It was wonderful.
Right. Well, it's it's one of those things you hear all the time when local businesses close. People are upset, but we have to support them while they're here.
Well, that's exactly right, and that's one of the things too. Is that we were able to promote our products to the other part of the world or anything like that. We could go ahead and say, if you want some beer in this particular restaurant, we're only too happy. Or if this restaurant wanted our beer, they were able to come and get it or anything like that. We didn't
Right.
have a full blown canning operation, but when the restrictions hit, we were able to acquire a little more efficient canning system that allowed us to get more product out there, and so that people could take it home, as opposed to at that particular time all there really was the growlers or other containers.
Now, I remember you had a very interesting can when you first started.
Well, we had the crowlers, which
Yeah,
are
the crowler.
which are the 32-ounce cans.
That in between kind of style.
Yeah, exactly. It's 2 cans of beer, and they were rather interesting. They were a pain because you couldn't just store them in the beer fridge or anything like that. They're a little too big yet. But we also went the route of having. We didn't go with the traditional glass growlers or anything like that. We used mini kegs.
Yeah.
The 2 liter, 4 liter, 5 liter, and 10 liter mini kegs, and those proved to be very, very popular. You could drive a truck over and not hurt them.
That's good.
Yeah.
Now, I also see mugs behind me. So I know part of the culture here at Balzac is to buy a mug, get your name on it, and drink from that mug all the time. So how did that start? Was that part of the English roots, or?
No, well, not really. No, it was a very good friend of mine. His daughter came in. She has a little pottery shop in Crossfield.
Oh, wow.
And he said, he came in with some samples. He said, could you use these? And I said, can you make beer mugs? And so she came in with a couple of samples of beer mugs. And the styles were kind of appealing.
Yeah.
One being a German style, another one being an English schooner style. And we're thinking, yeah, we could probably sell 3 or 4 dozen. Well, I think we're over 600 or 700 now, and no room to put them.
Yeah, I see. Every shelf behind me is full.
Yeah, and we've allowed them to put their own little nickname, and that's a challenge, trying to figure out whose mug is who. But eventually, you're able to determine whose mug it is, and have the beer sitting on the counter waiting for them when they by the time they sat down. But we had to be a little bit choosy on some of the names that they put on the mug itself. Just didn't want it to get out of hand.
Yeah, it is a family sort of atmosphere.
Yeah, no kidding.
Now, is this kind of like a wall of fame now, or is there still room for people to get mugs on, or do you have to wait until a mug comes down to get yours up
Yeah,
there?
well, in a lot of cases, usually that's what the situation. You have to, when you die, it gets put up on the shelf, never to be seen again, that type of thing. But no, you know what? We're pretty well maxed out as far as that goes. We really don't have the room to keep them anymore. If we come up with more room, well, then yeah. But there's so many different ways. How are we gonna store more and everything else? But
Right.
Take it home, and if you want to have a beer, bring it back with you, and we'll fill it only too happily.
Wow, you fill up anything.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Now, a couple of questions I had about the future here at Balzac. I know you've expanded your facility to include another facility for brewing and canning. What's the future hold?
Well, I'm never one to accept status quo. I mean, we
Right.
could have just carried on with right here, and just done quite well just by brewing everything here and just having this one little space and that type of thing. But I'm the consummate free enterpriser, higher, wider, faster, farther,
Right.
that type of thing. Never accept the status quo. So the decision was made because we were starting to get more of a demand for the product out in the rural communities. Not so much in Calgary, but at least in the rural communities was starting to get more of a feeling for our beer and wanting it more and more and more. And one of the biggest issues that we had here was storage space.
Right.
Where do we keep it? We can make all this beer, but where do we keep it? So basically pulled the plug on, or pulled the trigger on the another space. And as many people will know, we took over what used to be Fitzsimmons,
Right.
Fitzsimmons Brewing space. We just took over the space. We didn't take over their equipment. But anyways, so I purchased a very large cooler, and we were able to got our license to go over there and start storing and brewing and that type of
Excellent.
thing. And then about a year ago, we moved all of our equipment over there and have been brewing out of there ever since.
Which has more more space for people here in the show.
Yeah, we increased the space a certain amount, but we didn't want to lose the impact of brewing here. We have smaller brewing equipment here, and our license requires that we make beer. It's kind of an interesting scenario. If you want kids to come in here, you have to make beer.
So that's the differentiator. Wow.
Pretty much. But the thing is that because we're classified as a tap room and not a pub,
right?
So as a tap room, you have to continue to make beer, or else you start a restaurant, and a restaurant was not in the cards.
Right.
Not a hope.
Well, and I know you partner with restaurants around here to provide food, so you're meeting that niche anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. We don't care. We don't carry food or anything like that. But you bring your charcuterie board or order your food from whoever you want to, and they'll deliver it a lot of times right to the table. The two restaurants that we have here, we have a pizza joint at the end of the building, and then we have a brisket place right across the parking lot.
Right across the parking lot,
and it satisfies the demand for a lot of people. And right. I didn't really want to subject a lot of people to the pub food that we might come up with. But if we've got the fires going, we're outside, and go buy some Smokies. I don't care.
Yeah,
we cook them over the fire. Well, I've got the fire sticks here. You can do that or have s'mores or anything like that.
Now, how is the craft beer scene in Airdrie? I know we're up to, you said 3 plus kind of a remote location as well.
Yes, Solutions. So there's us and Atlas and 948, and then Solutions Brewing, which is on the periphery of they don't have their own tap room or anything like that, but they do. When we do a collaboration, we usually include them in their in our. For instance, when we did an Advent calendar, they were one of the 4 breweries in the beer Excellent. Advent calendar. So we try to include them, but they have yet to have their own space here. But the three main ones are the ones that 948, Atlas, and ourselves tend to occupy most of the craft beer scene here now in Airdrie.
Now, for a city our size, is it normal to have 3 craft breweries? Is that average, or like do we?
Well, the demographics tells you that to make a succeed, and this is what through our own investigations that we did prior to opening, you need a population base of roughly 14,000 people.
Right.
And
we're well
truer
past
word in this part of in this quadrant of the city, there's quite a bit more than that, and growing. So it tends to show that the truer words are never spoken when it comes to, if you want this to succeed, you have to have the population to be able to service it.
Yeah.
So really, for the craft beer scene in this part of the world, and for Airdrie, 3 are serving it quite well.
Yeah. And you guys have taken rising tides lift all boats kind of atmosphere to it. I see you guys constantly working with the other breweries. I remember the Ale Trail and a bunch of other initiatives where all the breweries were getting together. So talk about how you guys get along.
Well, unfortunately, we're all so busy in our own lives. My wife and I are probably a bit of an enigma in that we spend a lot of our time here, whereas the guys who own the other places, they have their own day jobs as well. So they spend the time when they can, so to speak.
Right.
But we support each other. I want to see them succeed in the styles of beer that they make, in the atmosphere that they promote, and that type of thing. It does no good to have a brewery that is in making or in, dare I say, not going down the tube.
Right.
It doesn't do any good for the city or anything like that, because It's all about the promotion within the city and of developing a whole new scene that you can that people can use as opposed to just a regular bar.
Yeah, I find when my journey with craft breweries and craft beer started maybe 10 years ago, where you started to see different flavors and different types of styles and stuff you were never really exposed to. But I know when I tried something the first time, it made me want to try other breweries and other small things. So having anybody trying craft brewery will increase people coming back.
Well, that's exactly right. And the interesting thing about it is that the three breweries are unique in themselves. They have their own different styles.
Yeah.
Okay. So that we don't. There's might be some crossover with one or two different beers, but because they have different styles of beer, it makes it kind of interesting when people want to go on an ale trail or something like that. And it makes it now with the advent of the 40th Avenue being complete, it makes it really, really nice.
Really
people
easy.
can get from one side of the town to the other without having to wait for a train or whatever the deal might be. And it's a lot quicker and a lot closer.
Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is I know you're actively involved in the community here in Airdrie, and you're often seen at events. What events are coming up for you?
Well, Edmonton Beer Fest, Calgary Beer Fest, of course, Red Deer. But there's other things as well. Last year was our first year of providing beer for the Airdrie Rodeo, which turned out very well.
Excellent.
For us. It was a bit of an an experiment, but the rodeo committee took a bit of a flyer on us, and I think it turned out quite well. So so we got the Airdrie Rodeo coming up. We've also got we're planning on doing attending other little fairs and that type of thing as the need arises.
I'm going to put you on the spot, but when are we going to have the Airdrie Beer Fest? Is that something Airdrie Inside and Balzac could pull together? Get all the local breweries and bring everybody from the surrounding
well, that's sort
areas
of done in a bit of a fashion. If you at the time of the rodeo or anything, I'd like to see all three of us selling beer at the rodeo, which would make it like a beer fest and that type of thing.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
there's also the as you alluded to, the event that you have going on July the 1st at the same time.
Yep. Culture Fest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So that could quite easily turn into an Airdrie Beer Fest. Whether it would actually work, I'm not sure.
Well, I think the sunny days in the summer help, but it would be great to see all the breweries in one place. And this is just such a great local flavor that makes our city a little bit different. You could go to any pub or any chain restaurant, but to go to a local craft brewery is a pretty special thing, in my mind.
Absolutely, it does make it a little cozier, if you will, and a lot of times there's just no pressure or anything like that. We're not like the restaurants. If we had the food here, it would be one of those things, eat up and get out because there's more people waiting to come in. I'm one of those that I don't care if you sit there and have a glass of water and read a book. Come on in and enjoy the atmosphere that we've created here, and with no pressure.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate you spending some time with me today.
You're very welcome.
Great. Like I said, this gives me such a nice platform to go to places that I enjoy and that I frequent and find out the stories behind them. And, this is one of the reasons why I'm extremely passionate about, on Fridays and Saturday nights, not having Deerfoot full of people driving to Calgary to spend their money, staying here in town and supporting local businesses and places like this, I think really help keep it there. So, it's my mission to kind of tell those stories behind the scenes and figure out what we have in the city that keeps people here.
Well, and we appreciate it. Our story does need to be told. Airdrie has really evolved from the bedroom community to being more of its own entity that needs to have its own people, have its residents service or get whatever they require within the community. With the advent of the Balzac Mall, that really kept everybody from, the majority of them, having to go into town to buy their necessary goods or anything like that. It really, really helped out. And I'm seeing more, because the city is expanding as much as it has and will be. It makes it all the more important that those services that
Yeah.
you could only get in Calgary become more prevalent here, and that'll happen by demand alone.
Yeah, 100%. You can't just open out of charity.
Nope, that's exactly right.
Now, last thing I wanted to ask you, what beer should I be drinking? I'm an IPA guy, but I love ales as well. On tap, what should I be ordering here next time? What's new?
Well, the thing is that we try to have something new every once in a while more than anything else. But one of the things that we're gradually becoming noted for is our Sea Buckthorn IPA, which is quite a bit different. It's made from the Sea Buckthorn berries. The original recipe we developed on the farm from the berries of the bush that was grown, and it's a really unique beer. It's an English style IPA, meaning it mostly emphasizes the flavor of the hops as opposed to the flavor of the flavor of the malt rather than the hops or anything like that. But the berries add a little tartness to the brew that actually keeps people coming back. They try it for the very first time, and because most of them will say, "Boy, I don't like IPAs." And I feed this one to them, and they said, "Whoa, is that ever different?" And I've made a lot of converts out of that aspect of it. So,
well, I can tell you right now that is absolutely my favorite beer on tap here. I've had the Sea Buck many, 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 many times, and I will have it many times in the future. So thank you for putting that on, and thank you so much for hosting us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, and happy to see you here, and thanks very much.
And thank you for listening along on Airdrie Inside. Follow us at airdrieinside.ca or wherever you stream your podcasts. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.